welcome to Healing Doorways. I am your host, Alicia Marcano, and today I have the great pleasure to bring you a very good friend of mine. Her name is Narelle McDonald, and she's an expert of Feng Shui. I invite you to check out her website, Wellness at Home. But stay tuned because in this interview, we are going to talk about what Feng Shui is, how to start applying Feng Shui at home, how can we make our working from home more harmonious, and many more tips of how to bring more Qi flow into your home. Thanks for listening. All the materials provided in this interview are for informational, educational, or entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to be or serve as a substitute for professional, medical, or mental health advice, examination, diagnosis, or treatment. Hi, Narelle. Welcome to Healing Doorways.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here.
I'm so excited to finally have you.
We got there.
We got there eventually. And today, Narelle is going to talk to us about Feng Shui because she's an expert in the subject. And I think this subject is so important right now that people are nesting in their homes and they're spending so much time at home. And they need those little advice to make life at home a little bit better, a little bit more flowy. So I think I thought it was a good subject to bring in, especially
Absolutely.
with all these restrictions going on. So Narelle, what is Feng Shui and where does it come from?
So Feng Shui is really, literally it means wind and water, and it's an ancient Chinese art. It's existed for many years, and it looks at the laws of nature and how we restore balance and improve one's quality of life. And it really acknowledges that everything in the universe, living and non-living, is Qi, vibrating at different frequencies. So it's everything's interrelated. And the ancient, the translation of Feng Shui in the classical text, I should say, is the energy of the dragon is dispersed by wind and stops at the boundary of water, because wind and water carry Qi, the life force energy that's required by all, and wind and water and its interaction with the land are really important to understanding the actual site. They really, in ancient Feng Shui, they obviously had a lot more time to sit and really observe nature and notice what was happening. And this is how it sort of came about. And they really considered that a building, it needs to be placed and designed in harmony with its surrounding environment. So that's very important. And in fact, cities like Hong Kong were designed around the principles of Feng Shui. So it's... It used to actually only be used by royalty. So it's really only since about the 1980s that it sort of really came into kind of Western ways sort of thing. And so it's really started to become popular since then. And I've actually noticed personally that people are becoming more and more interested in this topic lately, and it is too, because we are spending so much more time in our homes. A lot more people are renovating, they're starting to notice what's going on around them, and they're spending a lot more time there. So potentially they're picking up on maybe, you know, what's in balance and what's out of balance, that sort of thing. So that's basically really what Feng Shui is. We're really just trying to harmonise and use the quality of Qi. We really want Qi to meander through a space. We don't like fast moving energy. We really want to capture that energy, that life force, and let it accumulate in our spaces.
Oh, that's good. And is there any rules of Feng Shui that we can start in?
That's an interesting question. I know a lot of people get confused when they read books, etc. And look, there can always be exceptions to the rules too. And there are, you know, depending on the Feng Shui practitioner that you get, they'll have their sort of, because we are interpreting what's going on in that house and on that site. And and there's obviously there's form school, there's compass school, and there's flying stars. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on those to tell you the difference, just for those out there, because you will see this in books and things like that as well. So with form school, that really looks at the physical, tangible environment, things like roads, water. Are you in the city? Are you in the country? So a rural country environment, the forms tend to be much stronger often than in a city. So there's quite a few factors with that sort of thing. So it looks at all of that colour, shapes, materials, furnishings, or think of anything with form, I suppose. And then compass school, that's a branch of feng shui that really just looks at the influence of direction. And you'll have the 8 different sectors. So you've got east, southeast, south. So south would represent summer, fame and reputation. The number 9 is associated with that. It's the element of fire, that sort of thing. So all of the different directions have these sectors, numbers, elements, shapes. There's organs, body part. There's all sorts of stuff associated with that. And then there's flying star feng shui, and that's the type of feng shui that I do. It's the most complex form of feng shui, and it's very comprehensive. And it looks at the distribution of energy within the home, and it takes into account both time and space. So you've got the underlying energies of the compass and the directions, but then you've also got almost like numerology for that individual home. So each home is unique. It has its own facing direction, it has its own compass reading, and it depends on the year it was built. So for example, with feng shui, there's 20-year cycles. And so from 2004 to 2024 is the age of 8. So a home built within that period would be an age 8 home. But if you were to build a home in 2024, 2025, that would actually be an age 9 home. So this is so it is like numerology, and I love it because when you overlay the template onto a floor plan and the client tells you the story and you interpret the chart, when they mirror each other, it's really interesting to see how things play out within that environment. Because for us, we really say that our external environments are a reflection of our internal self. So often when you're making changes or you're renovating or you're considering moving, there's going to be an external shift, but there's a big internal shift happening. So it's a reflection of what's going on internally for you as well. And this is what our buildings reflect out to the world.
Oh, wow. I'm actually studying numerology at the moment. So it'll be like working out the numbers for the house.
Yeah.
House was born this time at this hour. These are the numbers, and
yeah,
very interesting. Wow.
In feng shui, we don't look at house numbers per se as such, but we definitely do. When we overlay that template in Flying Stars Feng Shui, we have numbers, and there's a relationship, and there's an interpretation based on those numbers. And each age has its own prosperous set of numbers. So we're looking to sedate more challenging energies and enhance those really good prosperous energies. So that's what we're trying to do when we interpret what's going on in that floor plan.
And do you and how do you start applying feng shui in your house? Like I'm brand new in feng shui and I want to start doing it in my house. Is there any tips that you can give me to start with?
Look, yeah, absolutely. So if you think about it, buildings are really their energy and form, I suppose. We use feng shui as a technique so that we can improve our health, happiness, wealth, etc. So one of the best things you could do is actually get your individual chart done, of course, for your home. And that would really drill down and give you a really interesting perspective into what's going on for you and your family within that space, and then you can make some quite big changes. But just as far as if we're just looking at general feng shui, I'd start with the entrance, because the entrance is so important, and basically it's the entrance where opportunities can flow into your life. through the entrance. So keeping that area well lit, free from clutter. Think about when you approach your home and you approach your front door, what is it that you think when you're approaching? Like, are you happy to be home, or do you notice that there's something that you haven't dealt with sitting on the front porch? Does your door, like, is it nicely painted? Is it appealing? You know, all of those sort of things. What do you first see when you open your front door? I know in one of our former homes, and this was when I was starting to learn many years ago, and the first thing I saw when I opened the front door was a clock. It was in the kitchen and it was above the bench, and I was always felt like I was didn't have enough time. Never had enough time. Always like, oh my God, I don't have enough time. And I realized that every time I opened the front door, the first thing I saw was this clock reminding me that. So I took it down because I was like, I don't want to see that every time I open the front door. It was quite remarkable because it did actually have quite a big impact. So it's yeah, I really like the front door and the entrance are incredibly important. And we refer to it as the mouth of the home. It's the first impression, and it's the image that we present to the world. So some of the, I like to say to my clients that the journey sort of begins at the front door. So really consider, if you really take a moment before you put your keys, as you walk up that pathway, before you put your keys in the front door, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What do you notice?
That's good. Yeah. Just to bring a bit of consciousness in that moment.
Absolutely, yeah. A nice doormat. I always recommend replacing the doormat every 6 months because energetically you're moving across it all the time. You know, a beautiful potted plant. You know, it's well lit. As soon as you open, there's a place for storage so that your things can be organised, so you just don't dump everything as soon as you walk through the door. All of those aspects can make a difference because good feng shui guidelines are about that. It's creating beauty within the space, using essential oils, fresh flowers, only having objects that you love. For example, if you have something that somebody potentially bought you for a wedding present and you have it displayed in your home but you can't stand it, you know, it's good to let some of those things go instead of just having things on display because you should or you're expected to. Just surrounding your stuff with objects of beauty that bring you pleasure is really important because they're all symbolic.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yes. And would it be a good idea to have like my hallway is quite narrow from the front door, and but I feel the need to have like a little table, even if it's like a tiny little high table to put my keys and stuff.
Absolutely. Somewhere to put things is important. Okay. Even if you've got a narrower hallway, even like having some hanging hooks potentially, and even having some like wall lights just to lighten this, like to bring some light into the space. Some up lights could help. Bring a little bit of light, make that hopefully appear a little bit bigger, potentially draw someone's eye down the hallway to the other end. If you've got a blank piece of wall at the other end, having a beautiful piece of art there that could draw the eye down through into the home, that helps the chi move through as well. Because anything that even like a smaller plant or something, because remember we want to slow that energy down and have it come through and meander through, but we still want to have those places as light as possible too. So in some areas it might need a little bit of assistance to achieve that, but that's where wall lights etc could be beneficial. You know, even a smaller runner, because you wouldn't want to put a lot of furniture obviously in a thin hallway because that's not going to be practical, because we still want to be practical and it still needs to be functional. You don't want to put things that you're banging into because it's not functional, it's not practical. Yeah. From a building biology perspective, we always encourage people not to wear shoes in the house. So having a little place like a shoebox where you can put your shoes in. You know, can you use the patio to a degree to help organise that space? You know, that sort of thing. Just thinking how you can create clever storage to suit your family's needs and how you live. But definitely creating light and beauty and drawing the eye down into the home can be really valuable as well.
Since a lot of people are working from home now, what are your recommendations for them to run a successful business from home in regards organizing the workspace?
Yeah, that's it's an important question because it's so much more common these days.
Yes.
From a feng shui perspective, we still want to create a space that gives us some privacy where possible. And ideally, we'd like to have command of the space in front of us. So you can see here, I've got like some filing cabinets, etc. behind me. So what I've done is created a solid aspect behind me, and it can be quite good to hang certificates and anything that represents the knowledge you've accumulated, that sort of thing. So it helps you gain command of the space, I suppose. If you can see the door and you have solid backing behind you as support, you're less likely to be interrupted. Obviously at home it can be a bit trickier because sometimes you're working a little study nook or something like that, and you may not have the opportunity to do that. But wherever you can, if you can create a little space for yourself that is dedicated for your work in a way that would work better. Sometimes if you're constantly moving around, and it can depend what you do for a living, that may work for some people, but to create a space that's yours where you constantly come back to and your focus is on your work can be, I think, be more beneficial, because it's almost like the energy is imprinting in that space, and this is where you come to work, because otherwise sometimes discipline can be more difficult when you're working from home, or you can get distracted by the other things that are required. So setting up those boundaries as well, so giving yourself that time to focus on work and not being distracted potentially by what's in the other rooms of the house. So positioning a desk so you can see who's entering is a big one from a feng shui perspective. Like, we wouldn't recommend to try and avoid, putting your desk in alignment with a long hallway or anything like that, because it really impacts on your ability to concentrate because of the energy. If you've ever noticed in offices, if someone's sitting with their back and everybody's walking behind them, it's very hard, or they've got a big long corridor and people are coming and going all the time. It's very hard for them to focus and concentrate on what they need to get done. Really, keeping it organised, keeping it clean, clutter-free, because clutter is really, if you've got a cluttered desk, it kind of indicates a cluttered mind. So really freeing that space up, and trying to, if you are having to work at home much more often, I would highly encourage you to create a space that is very much your own, and that you go into your work mode, you put your work hat on when you're in that space. It feels comfortable, you've got natural light, and some of the other elements that we've already talked about before.
All right, that's good. And you talk about clutter-free, and I have a question from one of our listeners, and she asked if does minimalism affects feng shui, and how does it affect it?
Well, minimalism is good in the aspect that it really doesn't. It prefers no clutter. So clutter is an interesting thing because it is so easy to accumulate clutter. It's quite extraordinary how quickly you can just accumulate stuff. And I know from my own experience of moving around a lot, and I cannot believe what we've managed to acquire in the last 5 years here. It just blows my mind. So thinking about anything that you don't use or love is a really important. So if you do start to do some clutter clearing and to bring in that more minimalistic, really going through your stuff and just thinking about, why am I keeping this? Like piles of old magazines, just
that's me.
Things that you think you're going to read one day, or things that you're going to fix one day. Are you really going to fix that? Do you love it? Do you use it? Like, right, I'm going to go through and I'm going to really decide, am I going to keep it? Is it a maybe, or am I going to give it to charity? And really start to think about that. And if you've only got, even if you only start with one drawer, because again, it can be overwhelming to start to look at a whole room and think, oh my God, I've got to do this whole room. And sometimes you just start with one drawer and you will naturally pick up the momentum that you require to keep moving on, because clutter really, it represents the past, and it can be an inability to move forward in life. It's kind of holding you back because of the sheer weight of all this stuff that you've got. So when you clutter clear and you create that more minimalistic environment, you're actually freeing things up so new opportunities can come into your life. And if you think about that when you're clutter clearing, that can be really helpful. Denise Lynn talks about, she calls clutter clearing the modern day alchemy. So yeah, she believes it's one of the fastest ways to completely transform your life. And it's really interesting. I have a little bit of a book fetish, and I've got to pack up my office. In fact, I think I'm sort of starting in the next few days, and I have so many books, and it's, you know, it's real, and I'll be doing that. I'll be going through thinking about, okay, you know, do I still need this book? Maybe this book could serve somebody else better than myself now, you know. So this, I think minimalistic can work. The only thing I would say is just make sure that it still has the presence of your soul, your personality. Don't go too minimalistic so there's nothing left of the essence of you. I think that's really important, because you still, when you come into your home, you want it to be a sanctuary, and you want it to represent the things you love and cherish. So sometimes if it's too minimalistic, it can feel a bit barren.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's that fine balance of being organised and clutter-free, but still having that sense of place, that sense of soul. So you know your home. You still want it to have that essence of yourself. So you still want to, you still want to see those things that you love, but by clearing the clutter, it allows more space to bring out those objects that you really, really cherish and have really symbolic meaning for yourself. You've actually got room to display those. That's often what people will find too when they do clutter clearing and stuff. They can get rid of the stuff that really doesn't have the meaning, and then have the space to put those objects and that art and those photos on display that do, when they look at them, they really feel something.
Yeah. And how good does it feel when you declutter I don't know, your pantry or your closet?
Oh my God.
Oh, it's like,
so good. I take photos, so sort of stuff I take photos of and send to my friends, and they think I'm strange, but I love it. I just did my pantry the other week. I love organising my pantry. Yes. There's a huge sense of satisfaction that you actually get when you do it. And the space can feel very different. You know, another thing you can do after you clutter clear is get some sage and do a bit of a, just an energetic clearing on it as well. And you'll often feel the space feels crisper, it feels cleaner. You've just done this, spring clean, but you've also done an energetic clean of the space, and you're letting go of stuff. So you're opening up your world for new opportunities to come to you, because you're letting go of stuff that's holding you back.
Makes sense. Everything's connected.
Absolutely.
Everything's connected.
Yeah.
And I have another question.
You can feel that in houses, can't you? When you walk into a house and it just feels right.
Yeah.
And we don't know, or you, in the same time, you walk into a house and you're like, it's beautiful, but why does it,
feels so heavy?
Why does it not feel right? Because so intuitively we can feel stuff.
The old people's house, like I don't know, back home, the old people, they love to collect those knick-knack things. Knick-knacks, is that what you call it?
Yes.
And it feels so heavy. It's like, just get rid of those things.
Yeah, but also I suppose in a house like that, it's more yin. So it has a different feeling to in a house with children, which are naturally more yang. And the energy is moving differently. So in an older person's house, the energy is more likely to feel more yin. So it will feel a little bit different to a house with lots of young children in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Something to think about. Yeah, because you always feel heavy when you go to old people's houses. It feels different. No, nothing
Yeah,
wrong. It's
and they
just
will choose different types of spaces too.
yeah.
So yeah, because we choose homes that are a reflection of where we're currently at in our life too.
Mm.
So this is what I was talking about before. So we will choose spaces, and that actually will provide the lessons that we need to learn. And so as we move through our different our years, our ages, our
Mm.
needs and our wants will change, and we'll probably want somewhere a little bit more quieter, without the comings and goings, all of that sort of stuff.
No, that's
So yeah,
interesting. I
yeah,
guess it's a house full of the past. They like to collect pictures of when they were younger, or the family that they're no longer there.
yeah. Well, lots of
So
memories.
lots of memories. It feels really,
Yeah,
oh, it's,
yeah.
not
And
all the
maybe
old people's houses, not all
no,
of
no,
them.
no. But yeah, lots of memories.
Lots of
Yeah.
memories. I have a question. This one is from my mom. I would say hello to la
Hello.
señora Alicia. She's asking, she wants to know if she can put a mirror in front of her bed.
No.
No? That's it, mom, no.
No,
That
Mum,
was a
no.
straight answer. Too easy.
Yes, look, we really don't recommend having mirrors like that in
Okay.
front of the bed. So with the bedrooms are really important. We really want to create a sanctuary, want it to be cozy. We want to feel like we're nurtured in that space. The master bedroom is considered the most yin room of the house. So ideally, we'd like that to be potentially more so at the back of the home and only have that dedicated use, because a lot of people will use their bedrooms as an office, all sorts of things. We have lots of different things going on these days that
Yes.
we didn't have in with the ancient feng shui. So we call it modern feng shui, and that's where that moves into building biology and things like that, where we wanting to minimize electronics and chemicals and all of that sort of stuff. But yes, mirrors, and that's big. They say that with mirrors too, so if you are in a deep sleep at night and then you wake up suddenly, it's to see yourself reflected in the mirror is like it frightens the soul.
Oh,
So so it's not recommended. So I
okay.
tend to, and the mirrors are quite yang, they amplify energy. So they do need careful placement as well. So we use quite a lot of discretion when we're placing mirrors, especially big mirrors in homes, because from a flying star perspective, they will amplify the energies that they are reflecting. So we don't want to do that with a more challenging energy.
Okay.
A prosperous energy, but not so much with a challenging energy. So definitely minimize mirrors in the bedroom. Ideally, you could have it so it's not reflecting you in bed, in the bedroom would be a place to have a mirror. But yeah, avoid where you can, where it's reflecting the bed.
Okay. Where would be a good place to put a mirror? Would it be a good place to put it in the entrance of the house?
Not
Or?
well. Again, you don't want to put a mirror in the entrance because, and it bounces the energy back out the front door.
Okay.
So we wouldn't recommend it facing the front door.
Okay.
You could potentially have it over to the side, reflecting a beautiful garden view. Yeah, that sort of thing. So it does. We prefer to know what the flying stars are before we sort of start placing mirrors to a degree. But yes, I would never recommend in any circumstance to have a mirror facing the front door and reflecting the energy back out.
Okay.
And I wouldn't put a mirror reflecting you in bed.
Okay.
And
No,
that
that's
goes for
fine.
children as well. Yeah.
I have a
Yeah,
mirror
but
on the
definitely
side.
if
Yeah.
you've got a living room and you've got a beautiful garden, and then that mirror reflects that beautiful garden into that space, that can really work very well. Yeah, because it will amplify that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, mom, just put the mirror away from the bed.
No mirror reflecting you in bed. Yeah.
No mirrors in front of the bed. And I think that's the last question. I just want to remind our listeners, if you have any questions for my next interview, just text me on this number, which is +61 0406 008 372 with the word healing doorways, and I will put you on a WhatsApp group. I promise I won't bombard you. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna interview tomorrow this person. Do you have a question for this person? And then we will bring your questions for the experts. So, well, Nelly, can you do online sessions at all? It will be a bit hard for Feng Shui. Or...
Oh no, you can. So we can do Feng Shui remotely, but it would require because now we've got some great technology available online where we can get really accurate compass readings, which is great, and we've got Google Earth and all that sort of thing as well. Generally, I would just send a questionnaire to the client. I would get them to send me some photos of their house. We'd have a phone consultation and go through everything. And then I always need a floor plan, so I can't do a Feng Shui consultation either on site or remotely without a to scale floor plan, because that's what we require. And we also need to know what year that house was built. So this is what I was talking about before. So say if your house was built between 2004 to 2024, then it's an age 8 home, and that forms part of the information that we require to look at the individual energies and the distribution of that within that house and that property. But yes, it can be done remotely.
What about if the house took like 2 years to build? Because mine took about 2 years to build.
Well, that's okay, because you've got that it's a 20-year time frame.
Okay.
The only time that could be a problem is, say, if it was started in 2003 and it ended in sort of early February 2004, when it moves into a different age. Okay. And then there's a potential, it would depend when the roof was put on the house. Okay. So, but otherwise if your house was started in 2006 and finished in 2008, it's still an age 8 home. So that doesn't change.
I think mine was, trying to think when my son was born. 2016, I think it was. 2016, 2017.
So it's fine. Yeah, so it's an age 8 home. Yours is an age 8 home, and it will have a compass direction that your front door faces. Generally, with because the river of chi or energy, the road, where the front door is facing. So, and that helps that. Then you would do a compass reading on the direction of your property, and then that gives us the information that we require. And then we take your floor plan and we use a template and we divide it up into 8 sectors. And then the flying stars, the distribution of energy, shows us what's happening in that home, and then we interpret that for you and write a report based on that. And it gives you information on colours, placement, room use, furniture, remedies, and solutions, etc., and which energies you want to enhance, and those that you are best to sedate, and how to do that. And we can use colour. Like I said, I prefer to use things that the clients already have in their homes to do that, representing the elements of fire, earth, water, wood, etc. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Mental. I've got mental.
Now I want to do that to my house and see. That's great. Really, and what would be the best way to find you?
Probably through my website, wellnessathome.com.au, and I have my feng shui services and also my building biology services on there, and there's information on the different types of consultations, etc., and I have my contact page and my phone number, etc., so you can reach me that way.
Awesome. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. This was so informative. Now I know a little bit more about I'm a bit more conscious about my door, my entrance.
Next time you go out, when you approach your front door, think about what you feel like, how you feel, and what you think when you're coming through the front door, and what you notice. What's the first thing that you notice when you open the door?
Definitely.
So it can tell you a lot.
Yeah, no, and it changes your life. Like if you have something there that you don't like, and every time you say it's like, oh, that thing again, that will,
Exactly.
yeah, it will change your life to
Yeah,
just
like
remove it. And
peeling paint and broken drains and all of that sort of stuff can represent different things. So just consider what you see and how it makes you feel, and then just chunk it down and start making some changes. Small incremental changes can make a big difference as you move through too.
I'll start today. I'm gonna stand that after finishing with you. I'm just gonna spend some time looking at my door,
Yeah,
just
you
trying
can
to
text.
record what I feel. Thank you so much, Nelly, and thank you for everyone listening. And I will see you in 2 more weeks with our next interview. So bye bye. This video, there's 3 things you can do for us. You can give us a like, you can share it with someone that might find this information helpful, and you can also hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks for your time.